Hello and welcome to Films and That. My name's Rob Turnbull.
My name's Sam Hall.
Today, Sam, what are we looking at?
This week it's Werner Fassbinder's The Third Generation.
Okay, and this was your pick, so what made you choose it?
I wanted to do a Fassbinder film for a while, but this one actually was requested by a former housemate of mine, so I figured, well, might as well do this then.
Fair enough. Okay, let's take a look.
A gang of middle-class misfits form a terrorist group in West Germany and run amok, but their agenda seems aimless. Are they yet another symptom of the circus that is Western media?
This review contains spoilers. So the third generation that the film alludes to is the third generation of the Red Army faction, or the Baader Meinhof group. That was taking place in the 70s and 80s, early 80s.
Yeah, the Red Army faction based in West Germany, mostly made up of like students, sort of middle class, educated people. Their aims were usually things like Palestine, the stuff that old left wing groups used to get into.
So you had the first generation that came up with this movement, and then they kind of got arrested or killed, and then there was a new group of people that came in. They were the second generation. But the third generation are so far removed from the initial ideology of the group that they seem to just be, being terrorists for the sake of being terrorists. Yeah,
almost like the punk movement, which started out as just being a rejection of form and ended up becoming the most commercially viable thing.
I buy Country Life because I think it tastes the best.
They just want to fight a cause.
Yeah.
I mean, don't necessarily think about what that cause is. And in this case, it leads them to being manipulated by outside powers, essentially. And that's what inspired the film. It starts off with an executive. He sells computers.
Yeah.
And
he's got a sort of drop in sales, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Hierzulande kein einziger Computer verkaufen, kein einziger, glauben Sie.
Meanwhile, he's also associated with this detective chief, whose son, unbeknownst to him, happens to be a terrorist. And daughter-in-law as well.
Yeah.
Well, these terrorists, they're sort of like, they're homegrown terrorists, like you said, they're part of this left-wing terrorist groups. They're almost aimless. They just sort of think, well, if we kidnap people and ask for aims, then that'll boost our cause. But all it really does is just, get everyone against them.
So anyway, the kind of central plot is the computer sales guy decides that he's going to get himself kidnapped by this group, and he's going to pay for them to do it just to kind of increase the sales of computers somehow.
Da hat das Kapital den Terrorismus erfunden, den Staat zu zwingen, es besser zu schützen. Ist sehr komisch, nicht?
Yes, but the plot of the film, it's the build-up to that, isn't it?
Yeah. The first act, I would say, is introducing all these characters, and we get introduced to a multitude of characters very quickly.
There's no central character, really, is there? I mean, the closest thing it feels like to a central character is no hero, really. It's the detective.
He's not really a hero, like you said. He's not likable, and we don't really see him for the middle chunk of the film. So yeah, there's no clear protagonist. The second act is the characters just kind of mooching around a flat, aren't they? As they get more and more anxious and more paranoid, trying to plan out their kidnapping attempt, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's like an allegory for how innocents and civilians get involved and caught up in these things. There's someone living under their roof called Ilsa, who's a drug addict.
And they keep saying, we need to get rid of this drug addict. Everyone keeps saying that, but no one ever does. She's just always around there,
But then she gets a house guest, and he's brought his friend along. And he says, I've just come here to meet her. She was like the love of my life. The terrorists sort of find out that he's an explosives expert.
So yeah, he gets involved as well.
Yeah, but reluctantly. A series of events sort of give him that impetus to join them. Eventually, Ilsa has a drug overdose. I think it's possible that she was actually killed, maybe, by one of the group. Because I feel like there's a lot of subtext like that. There's a few scenes where it's sort of like implied that something might have happened.
I think that her death was a negative for the group, though. I think they had to get rid of the body, and that brought more suspicion on them. So
but they do have a mole.
Yeah, they have a double agent who betrays them. Yeah,
called August. He's working for PJ Lures, the computer corporate head.
Yeah,
but it's not specific to say how involved the police detective is in all this, because he's investigating, but then there's a part of like he dismisses claims that it's all a setup, Well, it makes me feel like he's part of the conspiracy, but it's not spelt out. And towards the end of the film, one of the innocents, a friend of Franz, the guy who wants to get with the heroin addict, he sort of does his own investigation. He's the one that accidentally uncovers that it's all a setup. And then in a sort of quite bizarre scene, he confronts the commissioner about it, tries to tell him the truth, and the commissioner dismisses him. And then there's a line, "Oh, be careful, that rail is rotten," or something, where they're going up some stairs, and then he falls down some stairs.
Ein geisteskrankes Märchen. Machen Sie, dass Sie weiterkommen.
Aber dieses geisteskranke Märchen ist die Wahrheit. Nichts als die Wahrheit.
You don't see it, but in my mind, what happened is he's pushed.
Yeah. It'd be a hell of a coincidence.
Yeah.
If he just, he only fell to his death at that point.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of it, because all of this feels like an allegory of the media to me. Of course, you don't see in real life. You don't see that people get killed to keep things quiet, but it happens, And I felt like that was what that was implying.
Los!
And similarly, the kidnapping scene, which is quite a bizarre scene, isn't it?
Yeah, it's done. That's kind of experimental, that scene, because he's Lurs, when he's being kidnapped, is all kind of jovial and laughing, and then they're all dressed as clowns. But that brings me on to another point, in that a lot of the shots of this film, they're kind of quite oblique, and you don't really see a lot of what you want to see. So like a reverse shot, and like the character's head will be half in frame. So you only see like half of the character's face. Similarly, in that scene, you see the car, and you see them shooting towards the car. You don't see
what they're shooting at.
Yeah. So there's a lot.
Initially, you almost think, what are they shooting at? PJ Lurs, and then
he's just like laughing.
He's just laughing, yeah. And you're sort of going, what the hell's going on? But that is, it's how the media overblows, these things. It's meant to be like a bit of a black comedy in that sense, isn't it? Because these scenes, there are serious scenes and there are sort of comedic scenes, and that scene in particular is emphasising this sort of how sort of silly the whole thing is.
It's shot very naturalistically, lots of kind of real-world apartment sets. They didn't seem to spend a lot of time on the framing of the shots. It was just kind of film these actors moving around.
Yeah.
But then the actual acting's quite melodramatic and over the top.
Stollen! Stollen! Das sind gute Stollen. Das ist ein sehr guter Stollen. Ein Stollen mit Puderzucker, ein Stollen mit Zuckerade, ein Stollen mit Korinthen, ein Stollen mit echter Butter.
There's no pace, like slow pace in this film. It's always a bit of dialogue and then a bit of dialogue, and it's just constantly quite a quick film. There's lots of sound going on all at once, really. And sound is another thing. There's always some kind of background noise. There's never any time to rest in this film. It's a very stressful film to watch, I found.
Idealisiert es sich gewissermaßen mit edlere Formen an. Gibt es unsere das Ergebnis
The character finished speaking, and another character finished speaking, and then it cuts to another scene, and they're speaking, and there's this going on over here, and then there's a background noise over there. There's just no let-up at all with the sound.
Yeah, well, you're making it sound like a sort of an action thriller, but it's not really.
It's not, but I think that's really to get across the paranoia and stress of these people. Because I did feel stressed watching this film. I was just like, oh God, just calm down.
Mit so Bücher und Musik. Sie hören ja selbst, was da drauf ist. Musik, ganz normale Musik.
Das müssen Sie schon uns überlassen, Herr Fassbinder. Was wir uns anschauen, das bestimmen wir selbst. Hier, das überlasse ich Ihnen.
Verhaften Sie nur. Verhaften Sie die Mütze. Löffel.
Bitte, Frank.
Do you think this film was intentionally annoying? That's the initial impression I got.
So I don't know. That could be that just like the Fassbinder effect.
Well, he was a very interesting person. He did live a life of excess, didn't he? Mm-hmm. He was just constantly working or kind of taking drugs and doing it, like constantly doing stuff.
Yeah, and that's another interesting thing about this film is a lot of his films do have an element of that self-reflection in them. And they also highlight his own hypocrisy and things like that. There's themes of domestic abuse in this film, but it's highly recorded that he himself was publicly sort of abusing partners of his.
Yeah.
And he almost mocks himself. In fact, there's another film he made. It's a film about a controlling, aggressive, abusive partner. I feel like he's never afraid to point out his own insecurities.
Yeah, his own failures.
Which is very unusual.
I'm the king of the world!
The reason why he made so many films so quickly, I think, apart from the fact that he was a workaholic, was they had a kind of film-making commune. And he'd been working with these people in his first plays and his early short films. And they just sort of stayed on with him. And by association, a lot of them ended up becoming quite big actors themselves.
Yeah, Udo Kier's in it. He was in Yuri's Revenge, wasn't he?
Is it done, Yuri?
No, Comrade Premier. It has only begun.
He's in Blade as well.
He's in Blade, he's in Shadow of a Vampire, but he's in quite a few things.
He's in a lot of vampire films.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if he didn't play a Nazi. I don't feel like I could spoil this film, really.
No.
Because it ends very abruptly. It ends before it ends, And it ends just they're shooting the kidnapping video.
And they keep getting it wrong, and they have to wipe off the words on the back of the wall.
To kind of again emphasise their netness.
Yeah.
And then they say let's have zoo animals playing over. Again, referring back to this media circus thing.
And again, Lurs is loving it.
Yeah.
He's not frightened at all. He's going along with it. Oh, is that better? I could do it better. So,
yeah.
Ist das gut so? Sind Sie zufrieden?
It's split up into 6 chapters, and each one has a bit of graffiti, like at the beginning. Is that right?
I didn't really research that side of it, the graffiti stuff. I guess it's important.
I found it interesting because they're really, really vulgar bits of graffiti. And there was one that was taken from the men's restroom or something. Someone wrote something and someone wrote something else, and it just descends into stupidity of just like, you're an idiot and you're a fascist, or Nazis are great. Oh no, I think that was put in there just to show the kind of, I'm going to use the word zeitgeist.
Yeah.
I hate that word, but to show the tone of the time and to show how this kind of can get out of control and get into just stupidity, just people being crass for the sake of it, I think.
Trotz Kritik und mancher Unmutsäußerungen ist die IG Metall nach wie vor davon überzeugt, dass der neue Tarif...
So, what was your favourite scene?
Definitely near the beginning, Detective Gust is looking over a city from a tower block, and he says, "This reminds me of a film I saw." And Peter Lynn says, "Yeah, it was Solaris." And he says, "No, I don't know what it was." He said, "Yeah, it was Solaris."
Solaris ist einer der besten Filme, den ich je in meinem Leben gesehen habe.
Tatsächlich, und warum?
Film, das ist 25 Mal in der Sekunde Lüge, und weil...
Yeah.
And I love that kind of that poetry of Fassbinder's writing. He's such a great writer of dialogue.
I liked the opening title sequence. Well, I say liked, I have written annoying intro title sequence.
Interesting, then, I guess.
Yeah, and then I added incredibly annoying. Because it's text on screen. It keeps like flashing and popping up. But it's done to like a heartbeat, and it's just incredibly repetitive, incredibly just kind of in your face and just grating. But I don't know why that's kind of stuck with me, just because it was potentially annoying. And I think that echoes the rest of the film, to be honest. For
well,
me.
you feel that, I mean, annoying is like it's a gut reaction. Though,
well, it's trying to evoke an emotion in you, and it did evoke an emotion. So yeah, that's what I mean by annoying.
He was, yeah, he's an art director. So not everything he was doing was necessarily to make you go, "Oh, I quite enjoyed that." Part of it was mainly to make you think, but at least it didn't make me fall asleep like L'argent.
Ist Edgars Vater und Edgars Vater ist sein Großvater. Falsch. Edgars Vater. Ist Edgars Vater und Edgars Vater ist Großvater und...
Werner!
Ja.
Bitte tun Sie was Vernünftiges.
Was Vernünftiges.
So what do you think of the film overall? Do you like it?
Yes, but it is not one of my favourite Fassbinder films. But I do enjoy it. Again, I think it's just one of these things that's better with a rewatch.
Yeah, I might have to rewatch it again. I think Fassbinder set out to create a particular feeling, and he definitely achieved what he set out to create. I do get the film for that, but watching it, I was incredibly annoyed and stressed. So I didn't like it, to be honest.
It's not one of his. I tell you what, I get bored with the traditional Hollywood tropes, but I am a sucker for just something, to grab me normally. Yeah. And some of his other films, the ones that have that, are the ones that I tend to like more, rather than the more experimental ones, And maybe that, I don't see why that can't just be everyone. Why do we all have to pretend to like, what's that film by Michael Snow? Wavelength, I think it's called. It's just one long zoom. Why do we have to pretend that we enjoy that? We don't enjoy that, do we? It's just as one long slow zoom. Let's not pretend that it's good. It's just interesting,
Yeah.
We should start using the word interesting for these things, I think. And for some of Fassbinder's films, that certainly applies.
Ich werde hier gefangen gehalten im Namen des Volkes und zum Wohle desselben.
Okay, that's it for this time on Films and That. Thanks for watching and subscribing. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.